Happy Friday. It's icy in Central Arkansas, probably North Arkansas also. I don't know about those of you in Southern Arkansas, but if you're watching with us today, let me know what your weather is because it's icy here. And I'm Judy Best with eXp Realty. We're going to be talking about your taxes right now. And I know that's something we dread all year long is dealing with our taxes. So we're going to talk about how that can be a little more fun. And we're going to put a fun spin on it today because that's our theme this year is having fun in 21. So I'm Judy Best with eXp Realty. I do these videos every Friday, right about noon, just to add value to your life and introduce you to some of my really cool friends. So we moved our brokerage office this week. So we work out of the Regions building now, Suite 1700 in Little Rock. I'm usually broadcasting live from our office in North Little Rock, but today I'm broadcasting live from my home in Shady Valley in North Little Rock. So if you're in Shady Valley or in Indian Hills, you're one of my neighbors. Now, tell me, if you're watching, do you do your own taxes or do you have somebody that prepares your taxes for you? Drop that in the comments. If you're watching after we finish the live video, drop in a hashtag replay and answer the same questions because we like to know what's going on with you guys. Today, my guest is Evan Hall. And last time I had him here, he was kind of a new friend, but now I consider him a good friend. And he's a CPA, and he just hung out his own shingle right about the time we did last Facebook Live together in December. J.R. Barney Tax and Financial Consulting. Evan is a young, aspiring consultant, and he is ready to do taxes this year. And when he hears taxes, he thinks fun. He enjoys it. So tell me more about you and your business. And I didn't even introduce your wife and your dogs.
Oh, yeah. So, all right. As you guys can see by the tag below my head, I am Evan Hall. I'm a CPA. And just like Judy said, I just started my own business. It's named after my two grandfathers, both veterans, both incredible, upstanding men who, I aspire to be just like, and that's why I chose their name as my moniker. My wife is Amanda Hall. She is a project engineer with Napoltz Construction. I have two little dogs and a cat. It's Banjo and Truffles are the dogs, and then a little cat. She technically has a name, but we just call her Kitty.
Kitty, yeah. Well, tell me what you're looking forward to in 2021 because we lost out in 2020. We need to look forward to something in 21.
Yeah, I'd say a big part of 2021, of course, a lot of it is tied to having just started my own business. Mm-hmm. And just all the opportunity that brings along with it, all the adventures, good and bad, that go along with that, as I'm sure you and Roger can attest. But in terms of 2021, just putting 2020 behind us, and possibly looking to do some more travel, especially if especially right now, if weather permits, and later on in the year, as long as if we can start opening stuff back up, I know that's what everybody's hoping for right now.
I still have a trip booked for June to Spain, the south of France, and Italy. I don't think we're going to get to go, but I continue to book trips because that's how I keep my spirits high, is believing that I'm going to get to travel again. So
Yeah, I'm right there with you. We were planning on going to Oktoberfest this year in Germany if we actually could with some friends. But the further we get along, the more it looks like that's probably not going to happen.
Oh, man, I would like to go to German Fest with you. Oktoberfest, you said?
Yeah.
Oktoberfest. Yes, I would like to go with you. Maybe we can make that trip together.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, take the grandma and grandpa along with you. Yeah, that's cool. So like I said, our thing this year is having fun in 21. Well, we've all got to get our taxes done in 21. So tell me, how do you make it fun in the tax season?
So, funny phrasing it like that. I would say that I don't make it fun. Really, it's what I do is more, I keep it from being not fun for you. And that's largely what I try and do for people. I just try and keep the wolves at bay, as it were.
Well, that's good. We need to know that somebody else is taking care of business so we can keep going on. So tell me, Ben, what are some of those things that you're relieving us of so we can have fun?
Well, I'd say there are really five things that I like to focus on that can tend to keep you down, especially during tax season. One thing that I have, I swear, I think I see this with just about everyone that comes in or that I speak with, especially over Zoom now, is constant anxiety over taxes. And not even necessarily just anxiety about having to pay them and owing them, but also even speaking to anybody about them. It's almost like a taboo. But I mean, that's one thing I love to tell people immediately after they come in is, look, I mean, you've got an advocate here, and we're going to get through this and get to the other side, and it's probably not going to be nearly as bad as you think, especially if you haven't talked to anybody.
Well, and we have some extra worries this year because for some businesses, they're dealing with their PPP loans. For some employers and employees, they're dealing with unemployment claims and money that they've received. And we're all dealing with the stimulus checks we received, and we're not sure what we're going to be taxed on and what we're not. So there's just a little extra fear because of the weird things that happened in 2020.
Right. And one thing that you can hang your hat on, and this is the thing that applies to everybody, is a lot of people have asked me, are stimulus checks going to be taxable? Is that going to be something I have to watch out for? And the answer, thankfully, for everybody is no. You don't have to worry about it. And, I'll even do you one better and say that if you haven't gotten it or you had issues getting it, you actually can claim that through your tax return this year. And I'd
Awesome.
be able to help you with that. It wouldn't be any big deal at all.
Well, I know that you said that your brother had a baby during 2020, and because of that, he didn't get all the stimulus money that he should have gotten because he should have gotten some for her too, and that you can help with that.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's through the exact same vehicle. It's all of that's done through the 1040 this year. And so, I mean, for him, he'll get an additional $500 there that he wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And then, another 600 for the second round as well. I
Awesome.
mean, yeah, I mean, especially anybody who had 2019 babies. I mean, good news for 2020 taxes, thankfully.
Very cool. Okay. You said five things. What's the second thing?
Next thing is paying too much in taxes, and I'd really just refer to this, generally speaking, as winging it. So what that looks like is, I won't ever shy away from telling people if I legitimately feel like they can do it themselves. I want people to save as much money as they can, whether that's, necessarily through taxes or through a professional service like me. If I feel like you don't need me, I'm going to tell you. But too often people get into it, especially business owners, and we get to the end of the year and we say, well, what do we do now? I didn't keep good records throughout the whole year. Well, where do I go from here? Well, the first thing you do is come talk to somebody like me, because this is not a situation where you're going to want to go it alone, and can kind of provide that peace of mind and steer you in the correct direction. At the very least, we can get an idea of where we need to go. And then even beyond that, if you really want to make 2021, even in the rearview mirror, much better, is you start planning for how taxes are going to shake out for 2021.
I think that's especially challenging when people are new, have a new business, or if they're a 1099 employee. All realtors are 1099 employees, well, contractors, because we're not employees. And so we're getting payments all year long, and we're guessing how much to pay in each quarter or how many deductions we're going to have and stuff. And I think it's just, I don't think I could do that at all if I didn't have someone like you that's taking care of that and giving me direction, because I would be paying too much in or too little in, and both would be not a good situation at tax time.
Absolutely. And that's definitely a discussion that I want to have, an ongoing discussion that I want to have with people, just to make sure that they can, stay tax compliant, and that, everybody's on the same page. We don't have any surprises, because let me tell you how you have a bad time and you don't have fun is having a tax surprise. Nobody likes that. They're almost never good.
Yeah. Well, we've been audited, so I can tell you that when you are audited, you want to have somebody that's doing your taxes for you so that they can speak intelligently to the audit people and can clear anything up that needs to be cleared up. I love that. Okay, I have somebody's asking a quick question. Let's see if we can get an answer for them. Does a tax service company know the ins and outs of doing a business tax return as a CPA?
So you're saying a tax service company. So I would assume that this is
like H&R Block.
Yeah. Or, Liberty Tax.
Right.
I would say by and large, no. I mean, don't be wrong. I'm not going to sit here on my high horse and say that there are no people who know nearly as well as I do as this great and glorious CPA. But I will say, by and large, especially if you're a smaller business, you're not going to get the attention you deserve from an H&R Block. And what you're going to get is a data entry person, a data entry specialist who is used to entering data into a software. I would go so far as to say that most tax returns that I deal with, if a solar flare happened and knocked out all of the electricity in the world, but we still had to file taxes for some awful reason, I could probably do it by hand. I can almost guarantee that I could do it by hand.
Right. Well, and I think one of the things that I appreciate about dealing with a CPA versus dealing with a tax company is the tax company brings a bunch of people in fourth quarter and trains them to fill out the forms in first quarter. And so there are some people at the tax companies that are well-versed. They're the managers, and the people on the front lines are the ones that have just been trained to fill out the forms. Whereas dealing with the CPA, I have a relationship with them, and I can pick up the phone at any point and say, Evan, tell me how to handle this deductions, or will this be a deduction? Ask questions during the year so I am well prepared for my tax season.
Absolutely. And just to tag on to something like that, just like any other profession, at a base level, you have a knowledge of how things are supposed to work. But whenever you really get beyond that into a more advanced level, which a CPA would likely be an indicator of, you can really start manipulating things in a different way, not unlawfully.
Yes.
But you can kind of, find ways of manipulating things that, and it just opens you up to a completely different line of thinking. Like, if you're building a house, chances are you're probably going to go exactly by the book if you're inexperienced. But if you've been in, construction for 20 years, you probably know some shortcuts here or there, and where you can maybe take some cost saving measures or something like that. Accounting's no different in that way, and tax prep is definitely not.
Well, and your third point that we haven't said yet is that you've learned accounting in the tax code. And that's the thing I love, is when I get a call from you saying, hey, this just changed. You need to pay attention to this in your record keeping.
Yes, absolutely. And trust me, learning accounting and the tax code by and large is not exactly the most fun process in the world. I enjoy it. I do especially enjoy the accounting side of it. Tax is kind of like a necessary evil, but I do enjoy doing it, especially business returns. But that being said, I can't tell you how many people just, want to bring their crucifix, and clutch it tightly. If there's ever any mention of accounting, you need an old priest and a young priest for that one.
Well, and I think it's a good thing that God made us all different. So there's guys like you that love the numbers and want to crunch them, and that's willing to make it a great tax return for us so the rest of us can do the things we love. I don't want to sit and crunch numbers. Okay, let's talk about communicating with your CPA. I kind of touched on it just a minute ago, but that's one of the things that stresses out some people, but it's something I love.
Oh yeah, no, that's one thing that a lot of people think is by and large not a fun prospect is speaking with a CPA or an accountant. Because like I said earlier, a lot of this stuff kind of falls under the taboo heading. Whether that's need to talk about personal finances or business finances or how much I owe in taxes or what I've done wrong in the past, which not necessarily that's the case for everybody, but I mean a lot of people, have lived and learned.
Yeah.
Which I mean, in my opinion, is just a wonderful thing. I mean, if you're willing to grow from those experiences in the past, that's great. But I would say, by and large, we're not the most fun people to talk to either, because I mean, it is so much numbers and
Yeah.
rules and regulations and that kind of thing. But I will say that's one thing I do kind of pride myself on is I feel like I'm approachable, and that's my goal for everybody. I've had several people tell me that I'm easy to talk to, and this wasn't nearly as big of a deal as they thought it was going to be.
Absolutely.
I promise I'm just human. I have red blood flowing through my veins, just like everyone else.
Yeah. Well, I think some accountants and CPAs come across as enforcers and tax cops instead of as working as on the team with the business to help them figure out the best way to pay the correct amount of taxes and keep their books in order so they can get loans or whatever they need as they're moving forward. Lisa said that her company is a private company, not like H&R Block. They do her sales tax, her payroll taxes, that kind of thing. So she was asking more about a private company. What would be the difference between an accounting firm and a CPA firm?
So an accounting firm, typically you don't see those too often, but I'm assuming that's really people who specialize more in bookkeeping and that kind of thing. So I would say that that's largely someone who has more of an internal focus. It's really just in terms of functionally, how do I take care of the books every month? Now that might not necessarily spill over into tax planning, and it may actually cause a lot of confusion at the end of the year. One of the things I've definitely noticed with that has been, for general and subcontractors, if they go over a certain amount that they provide, and for each specific job, they're required to have a contractor's license.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to renew that every year, they have to get a license review or of some sort. It just depends on what size of the job it is that they're accepting. Now, one of the things I've seen several times in the past is you do have some of these private companies who people outsource their bookkeeping to. And let me tell you, this is not speaking to every company that's out there. There are some out there that do know what they're doing. However, some of the biggest messes I've seen have been provided by some of those companies and some of those independent accountants like that.
And most CPA firms, in my experience, have bookkeeping services available with some people doing that type of work if that's what you want. So it's not like you're paying for a full-fledged accountant on every piece of work you're having done, especially the more you have done. So, but definitely reach out to Evan. If he'll be happy to answer your questions. I mean, he's going to leave his contact information in the comments after we're all done. Now, I know that the last tip that you had was the stressor in our lives is when we try to do it all ourselves. We were just talking about that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, a lot of these points do have a lot of crossover, but this is the biggest point, is that what you want in a CPA, an accountant, whatever it is that you have, is an advocate. That needs to be your biggest, like the biggest draw for someone to get an accountant is to have, backup, really. I mean, is what it boils down to. Like, if you have an audit and you've done this all self-prepared, which as unlikely as that is,
It can happen.
Yes, it certainly can happen. And audits are pretty tricky things, especially if you're trying to go back and piece together records. You know, it's nice to have someone else there working through it with you and holding your hand through it. And that's what I would like to be able to do with anybody, my clients, happen to need that.
Yeah, I absolutely would prefer that auditor be sitting in your office than be sitting in mine, and that you have all my documents, and they walk in your office and ask you the question, not walk into my office and ask me.
Right.
You can tell I've been through it, right?
Yes.
So one of the things that you offer then to people to focus on so that they are relaxed and enjoying tax season without worrying is you're giving them peace of mind.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's honestly, that's the biggest goal out of one of the biggest goals for my clients is that you don't have anything to worry about. I mean, even if there is some sort of action later, like there is an audit, one thing about it, I will say about an audit is remember that doesn't necessarily mean that you're culpable for anything. It just means they're checking just a little bit closer. But I mean, that peace of mind, knowing that not only that this is being done by a professional, but that if there is any additional clarification that needs done, then they have the ability to do that. I mean, that's crucial for a lot of people. And I mean, that goes back to the anxiety that a lot of people have is because they think they are going to have to do all that themselves.
Right. Well, and one of the things that we don't just have a CPA do our bookkeeping or accounting because of taxes. We do that so that we have a record of where we're going as a business, and we have and that we're achieving our goals, and our accountant keeps us on task in that direction because they partner with us to help us to achieve our goals. Plus, it helps us to get the financing we need when we need to get financing for inventory and or for growing the business.
Absolutely. Or even to that point, even continuing financing. There are several, a lot of business loans and definitely even home loans at some point, in some cases where you're required as a business to present regular financial statements, especially if you are self-employed. It's an ongoing process to prove that you have the collateral to back the notes that you're taking out. And one of the things about accounting is, it's looked at as kind of a very convoluted process by a lot of people in it. There are a lot of twists and turns, but that's necessary to honestly provide a transparent picture of where you really are. So, I mean, that's the end goal for the ongoing continuing bookkeeping services and that kind of thing.
That's one of the reasons we don't do our own is because we need to have our reports done on a timely basis. So we're not 2 or 3 months behind, and because then we don't see a trend that's happening to our business when it's happening.
Right.
If we're losing money or if we aren't making it as much profit as we should be, we need to know that quickly so we can pivot and make a change in our business so we're back on track with good finances. That's what we depend on from the profit and loss statements that we get from our CPA, right?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things a trend I've noticed with people in the past is relying too heavily on your bank balance to tell you where you're at, but that can lie to you just as much as you.
Oh, no kidding. Well, and one of your, you already talked about having a backup, like when you're having an audit or something. So how about you're being a teacher, not a lecturer?
Yes. So everyone has had a class at some point, not necessarily a college class, but I mean, even a high school class. And you've had, I'm sure, a wide array of teachers. Now, the ones that you enjoyed were not the ones who just stood coldly at the front of the class and handed out assignments and said, figure it out. The ones that you liked were the ones who actually came over to your desk, looked over your shoulder, and gave you a personal touch that you needed, whether that was through encouragement or just a little clarification, whatever that looks like. That's, I know it's cliche, but I do see myself as an educator first and foremost, and then beyond that, an accountant. And I'll teach you as much or as little as you want to know.
Right. I don't want to know the numbers of all those forms and the numbers of the tax code and stuff, but I do want to know what I need to know to run my business the most effective way I can, tax-wise and profit-wise. I think one of the risks that business owners take most often, and especially contractors and realtors and people like us that have a business and we're maybe the only employee, or we may have a few people that we're working with, is we don't pay attention to whether we're really making a profit or not. But as long as there's money in the bank, we think it's good, as long as we see lots of money coming in commissions or whatever. And it's not always true. So you have to have somebody drawing the picture out for you, just like Evan.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm here for. That's to make sure you take a step back and, take a little bit harder of a look at your business in terms of where you're at. And, just back to not being a lecturer, just understand that I'm not providing judgment. I'm providing help. There's pretty stark difference. Yes, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Well, and one of the big things you were talking about is you can even notice trends in expenses that you have in your business, and you can recommend ways to lower expenses through your roster of business acquaintances that we both have, that you can refer them to lower some expenses. That alone might even pay for what you're paying for when you use a CPA, when they are looking at your records and helping you lower your costs.
Absolutely. I mean, just the same as, whenever you go to Judy, you're not just going to Judy. You know that you're going to everybody that Judy knows, which, even though my network has gotten a lot bigger over the past couple of years, one of these days, I hope to have as big a network as Judy does. But that being said, one of the things you do get from me, and you do get from, any good CPA, is going to be a full dependable roster, because they're going to be dealing with a lot of these people who are in adjacent industries or capacities, that can possibly make your life a lot better or more profitable, however you want to look at it. So you're not, just as the same with Judy, whenever you pull me in, you're not just getting me, you're getting everyone that I know as well, potentially.
Absolutely. Well, Evan, thank you for being with me today. If you guys are starting a business, or you're starting a new career field, and you need someone that'll just put you on track so that your taxes are set up, and if you need accounting services too, those are also, holler at Evan, and he will be happy to take a look and see what you need done and how he can help you. So if you don't have somebody to do your taxes this year, Evan's your guy. And if you are setting up your business or setting up a new career, Evan is your guy. One of the things I tell people when they're buying houses, have you talked to your CPA and have you talked to your financial planner? Because both of them can look at those records and can give you good advice of whether now is a good time to buy and what benefits that might give you in your taxes, buying versus renting. So that's important.
Absolutely. And just to tack on to that, I do provide, free consultations. If you call me, you're not going to get an invoice in the mail until I actually do work for you.
There you go. And he's happy to meet you on a Zoom call. So there's no easier way to connect with a new CPA. And I highly recommend Evan Hall, because he's going to take good care of you. So if you're my friend, holler at Evan. Thank you for being with me today, Evan. We're going to wrap up now. Next Friday, I'm here every Friday at 11:30. I'll be here with Adora Curry. She's one of the moderators of the group We Gather that women are in right now on Facebook. and she's employed at Pulaski Tech. Usually she's doing the Diamond Chef competition at this time of year, but that's been put on hold because of the pandemic. So we're going to find out how she can talk about fun in 21 come next Friday. For now, Evan and I are going to say ciao. Have a great day.
Thanks, Judy.